The kill channel had been broadcasting for 3 hours before the Callaway answered it, and in all that time, the old human cruiser had not moved a single kilometer from its station above Meridian 9. The voice on the channel was patient, in the way that very confident hunters are patient. It rolled across the dark in a low, smooth cadence, repeating itself on a loop, so that no one on the ice world below or aboard the lonely ship in orbit could pretend they had not heard. The voice belonged to Vorn Hesk Talu, master of the pack ship Threshing Crown, and the voice was not in a hurry. "You have been chosen," it said, and said again. "You will run. We will let you run. The Karen hunt does not strike from hiding like cowards or scavengers. We announce ourselves. We give you the gift of the chase. Run well, little ship, and your hull will earn a place of honor on our spine." Gideon Frost sat in the gunnery chair of the Callaway and listened to all of it without laughing. That was the first strange thing about the old man, and the younger crew had noticed it over the years. Other men would have smiled at the speech, or made some sharp remark to fill the silence. Frost only listened, the way a doctor listens to a cough, gathering small facts and storing them somewhere quiet. He was 61 years old. He had been in the Border Watch for 38 of those years, and he had been a gunnery chief for 29. His face was lined and brown and patient, and his hands, folded now in his lap, were the hands of a man who had built and broken and rebuilt the same kinds of machines for a very long time. He did not look like a hero. He looked like the oldest engineer on a tired old ship, which is exactly what the records said he was, and the records were lying. On the main display, the source of the kill channel hung against the stars, 12,000 kilometers out and closing slowly. The Threshing Crown was a beautiful thing, and beautiful in a way that was meant to frighten. It was long and narrow and dark, like a blade laid flat against the black, and it had been built not only to win fights but to show off the winning afterward. Down its full length ran a structure the Karen called the trophy spine. It was a great ridge of metal along the dorsal hull, and bolted to it, one after another, were plates of armor cut from the hulls of ships the hunt had killed. There were many of them. The reader aboard the Callaway, working quietly at the sensor station, counted 41 trophy plates before he stopped counting, and the largest of them was the size of a small house. Each plate was a ship that had run and had not run fast enough. Each plate had a name burned into it in the angular Karen script, the name the hunt had given the dead ship, and the date of the chase. 41 names, 41 chases, 41 hulls that now flew bolted to the back of the thing that had eaten them. And near the front of the spine, just behind the command tower, there was one bracket that was empty. It had been polished. That was the detail that the reader passed quietly forward to Frost, and that Frost turned over in his mind without changing his expression. The empty bracket had been cleaned and prepared and fitted with new bolts, and it was sized, by the reader's estimate, for a plate roughly 4 meters across. It was waiting. Vorn Hesk Talu had mounted an empty trophy bracket in advance of the kill, because the master of the Threshing Crown did not consider the outcome of this chase to be in any real doubt. He had cleared a space on his wall before he had even seen the prey run. The prey, in this case, was the Callaway. Anyone looking at the Callaway would have understood the Karen master's confidence. The cruiser was 40 years old, and it wore every one of those years on the outside where everyone could see them. It was slab-sided and blunt, a great rectangular slab of a ship, without any of the elegance of the hunter that had come for it. Its plating did not match. Whole sections of the hull were a different shade from the sections beside them, patched and repatched over 4 decades of border service, so that the ship looked stitched together out of the scrap of a dozen other ships. Long streaks of brown and orange ran down the flanks where coolant and oxidation had stained the metal, and from a distance, in the thin light of Meridian 9's pale star, the Callaway looked less like a warship than like something abandoned and left to rot in a slow orbit. It had 2 main engine bells at the stern, and one of them was dead. It had been dead, by the look of the cold metal, for a long time. The single working bell glowed a weak and uneven blue, the kind of glow that suggested an engine kept alive past its proper retirement by men who could not afford a new one. The ship's shields, when the Threshing Crown's reader had swept them, read thin and old and patchy, the standard envelope of a patrol cruiser 2 generations out of date. Its weapons were coil throwers, the simple kinetic guns that border ships had carried for half a century, slow to cycle and short of range, and entirely unimpressive, next to the focused energy lances of a Karen pack ship. The Callaway, in short, looked exactly like what the hunt's record said it was. A rust bucket, an old man's ship, guarding a frozen rock full of miners at the dull edge of human space, too slow to run and too weak to fight, named and registered, and waiting to be taken. They have given it a name, Vornhesk had said, 3 hours ago, when the kill channel first opened. His pack second had read out the registry, and the master had made a sound that the translator rendered as something close to a laugh. Rust given a name. They call this thing the Callaway, and they leave it here to guard their ice. It cannot even keep both of its hearts beating. And the pack had enjoyed that, because the Karen loved a clean joke before a clean kill, and the joke had ridden along under the kill channel ever since, surfacing now and then between the master's patient promises. Below all of that talk, 9,000 human beings lived and worked on Meridian 9. They were miners, most of them, with their families. They pulled deep ice and rare metal out of a world so cold that exposed water froze before it could fall, and they did it in domed towns scattered across the dark side of the planet, and they had not asked for any of this. They had heard the kill channel too. It came through every speaker on the colony, because Vornhesk wanted them to hear it, wanted the whole watching audience of the doomed to understand what was about to happen to the old ship that was supposed to protect them. There had been some panic at first. Then the colony administrator had come on the local line and told everyone to go home and stay home and keep the children inside, and that the Callaway would handle it. A few of them believed her. Most of them did not. They had seen the Callaway. They had watched it limp into dock for repairs, watched it sit at anchor leaking heat, watched the old gunnery chief and his small crew go about their dull rounds for years, and they did not see, in any of that, the thing that was going to stand between them and 41 trophy plates of proof that the Karen hunt did exactly what it promised. In the gunnery chair, Gideon Frost finally moved. He reached out and turned down the volume on the kill channel, not off, only down, so that Vornhesk smooth promises became a murmur under the quiet sounds of the bridge. The bridge of the Callaway was small and dim and very clean. That was another thing that did not match the outside of the ship. The consoles were old but maintained with obsessive care, every surface free of dust, every cable secured, every screen sharp and bright. 6 people worked there in the low light. They were not many, and they were not young, most of them, and they moved around one another with the easy quiet of people who had done this together for years and trusted the others to do their parts. The youngest of them was a sensor and systems officer named Eli Mara, 24 years old. 3 years out of the academy, and 11 months aboard the Callaway. She sat at the station beside Frost's, and she had been the one to count the trophy plates, and she had been the one to find the empty bracket, and her hands were not quite steady on her controls. She had never seen combat. She had read about the Karen hunt the way everyone in the service read about the Karen hunt, as a kind of horror story told to frighten new recruits, and now the horror story was 12,000 kilometers away and closing, and it had cleaned off a space on its wall for her ship. "Chief," she said quietly. She kept her voice down, the way you keep your voice down in a sick room. "It's still slowing. It's not charging us, it's just coming." "It will," Frost said. "Slow. They like slow." He did not look away from his own screen, which showed a stream of numbers that meant nothing to most of the crew, and everything to him. "They've got 3 hours of speeches left in them, probably. Maybe 4. They want us to break first. They want us to run, or beg, or shoot at them from too far out, and miss, so they can show everyone watching that we did it wrong." "Are we going to run?" The old man considered the question. On the muted channel, Vornhesk was explaining, again, the great honor he was offering the Rust Bucket and its crew. Frost listened to a little of it, the way he had been listening for 3 hours, gathering small facts. "No," he said. "We're not going to run. We're not going to do anything for a while. We're going to sit right here and look like exactly what they think we are." He turned, finally, and looked at the young officer beside him, and there was something in his weathered face that was not fear, and was not excitement, and was not even anger. It was something closer to recognition, the look of a man who has waited a very long time for a particular guest, and has heard, at last, the knock at the door. "You want to know a thing about me, Mara," he said. "I've been on this watch 11 years. 11 years on this exact line, above this exact rock. And in 11 years I have wanted exactly one thing to happen. He nodded at the display, at the long dark blade of the threshing crown and its spine of stolen hulls, and its one clean, empty waiting bracket. I've wanted a pack like that one to come here and make exactly the mistake it's making right now. Eli Mara looked at the screen, and then at the old man, and then back at the screen, and she did not understand. Everything she could see said the mistake was theirs. The pack ship outmassed them. It outgunned them. It had killed 41 ships and bolted their skins to its back, and it was coming, slow and certain, to make the count 42. I don't understand, Chief, she said. I know, Frost said, almost gently. You will. Watch the channel. Don't watch the ship yet. Watch the channel, and tell me the second the master stops talking about honor and starts talking about taking the kill himself. That's the moment. That's when they decide it's over. He settled back into the gunnery chair, an old man in an old ship above a frozen world, and folded his scarred hands again, and waited. 12,000 kilometers out, the threshing crown slowed a little more, in no hurry at all, certain of its empty bracket. And the voice of Vorn Hesk Talu went on promising the rust a glorious death, and aboard the rust nobody laughed, and far below, in the dark domes of Meridian 9, 9,000 people who did not believe in the old ship held their children and listened to a hunter explain, in a patient and reasonable voice, exactly how they were going to die. None of it happened the way the hunter promised, but that came later, for now there was only the waiting, and the slow blade in the dark, and one old man who had wanted this for 11 years, sitting very still, watching a murderer talk himself into a grave. Down on Meridian 9, in the deepest of the mining domes, the colony administrator stood in the dark of the control room and watched the same display the Callaway watched. Her name was Petra Vance, and she had run the colony for 9 years, and she was the only person on the entire ice world who knew even a part of the truth about the ship in orbit. She had been told, when she took the post, that the Callaway was not what it looked like, and that if a pack of the Karen Hunt ever came, she was to keep the colony calm, keep the people indoors, and trust the old cruiser to do a thing she would not be allowed to watch closely or speak of afterward. She had nodded and signed the papers and, in 9 years, had never quite believed it. The ship limped. The ship leaked. The ship sat at anchor with one engine cold, and the gunnery chief came down for supplies, looking like the oldest man in the border watch. Now there were 6 Karen hulls crossing her sky, and a voice on every speaker promising her people a footnote on a plate too small to read, and Petra Vance found that she still did not quite believe in the Callaway, and that she was praying to it anyway. She had 2,000 families in the domes. She had told them all to go home. She watched the long dark blade close on the rust bucket that was supposed to save them, and she made herself breathe, and she waited like everyone else. The 4th hour of the kill channel began with a change in the master's tone, and Eli Mara heard it before she understood it. Vorn Hesk Talu had been speaking of honor and of the chase, of the gift the hunt gave its prey, of the long tradition of the trophy spine. Now, as the threshing crown closed to 9,000 kilometers, the talk of tradition began to thin, and something colder came up underneath it. He stopped describing the chase as a contest. He started describing it as a chore. It will not run, he said, and he was not speaking to the Callaway anymore. He was speaking to his own bridge, and the kill channel was simply still open, carrying his voice out to everyone whether he meant it to or not. Look at it. It sits there. It does not even raise its weak little guns. Resh Kalvo, what do you make of it? The pack second's voice came onto the channel then, lower and rougher than the master's. Resh Kalvo was the second in command of the Threshing Crown, and where Vorn Hesk Talu performed for an audience, Resh Kalvo seemed to have no patience for performance at all. I make it dead already, master, Resh Kalvo said. Whoever crews it has given up. They know they cannot run and cannot fight, so they sit. There is no honor in this one. We should take its skin and move to the colony. The miners will run better than the ship, they always do. Aboard the Callaway, Gideon Frost smiled for the first time in 4 hours. It was a small smile, and it did not reach his eyes. There it is, he said quietly. The second one wants to skip the speeches and get to work. Good, Mara, mark the time. From here it goes faster. Marked, Chief. Her voice was steadier now. She had been watching the channel the way he had told her to, and somewhere in the last hour the pure terror had begun to change into something she could use, which was attention. They've stopped offering us the chase. Now they're talking about the colony. They always get there, Frost said. The chase is for them. The colony is what they actually came for. A pack like this one doesn't cross 11 systems for an old patrol cruiser. They came for 9,000 people on the ice, and a story they can tell about how easy it was. The Callaway is just the doorman they have to get past first. He said it flatly, the way a man states a fact he has known for a long time, and Eli Mara realized that he had known it. The whole shape of this. He had been describing it before it happened. Every move. Like a man reading aloud from a book he had already finished. She looked at him. How did the pack find us? Meridian 9 isn't on any trade route. We're nothing out here. That's why they found us, Frost said. The Karen hunt doesn't hit the strong places. It hits the edges. It crosses a long way into thin space, takes something small and far from help, and then it lets everyone hear about it. 41 plates on that spine, and not one of them came off a fleet. They came off lonely ships above lonely worlds. Border cutters, colony tenders, old cruisers like this one. He nodded at the display. 6 proud hulls in that pack, Mara. I counted them an hour after they crossed the jump line. 6 ships that have killed 41 others between them and never lost a single trophy in return. You know what that record does to a hunter? Makes them careful? Makes them sure, Frost said. Sure is better. Sure is what I've been waiting for. He turned back to his board, and Eli Mara studied the count he had given her, because she had not made it herself, and she wanted to check his number. She swept the formation behind the threshing crown and found them, strung out in the dark, each one running cold and confident. The pack ship threshing crown at the front, the largest, the one with the spine. Behind and above it, 2 long lean vessels the hunt's own broadcasts named the Quiet Talon and the Second Crown. Fast attack ships, built to flank a fleeing target and turn it back. Below those, 2 heavier hulls, the Marrow Cutter and the Long Patience, slow and thick, and made for the actual killing once the prey was cornered. And trailing all of them, at the very back, a smaller ship that did not seem built for fighting at all, the Witness, whose only purpose, the reader explained quietly, was to record the kill so that it could be played for the hunt's other packs, and for the young. 6 hulls, the Witness recorded. It did not fight. 5 hulls, then, that came to kill, and the kill was the Callaway, and after the Callaway, the kill was Meridian 9. They brought a ship just to film it, Eli Mara said. They bring it every time, Frost said. That's the part most people miss about the Karen. It's not really about the killing. The killing is easy, and they know it. It's about the story. 41 plates and 1,000 recordings, played at every fire, taught to every cub. The hunt isn't a navy, it's a reputation. The ships are just how they keep the reputation true. He paused. Which is exactly why this is going to hurt them so much more than losing a few ships ever could. Eli Mara did not ask what he meant. She was beginning to learn that the old man answered questions when he was ready and not before, and that the answers, when they came, were usually worse than she had imagined, and better than she had hoped. She thought about the 41 plates instead, because they would not leave her alone. She had read 3 of the names off them on her array, the angular Karen script, translated badly into human words, and the translation had given her a colony tender called the Bright Harvest, and a border cutter called the Wren, and a survey ship whose name had come through only as something like Far Lantern, 41 of them. Each one a ship like the Callaway, more or less, a small thing far from help, and each one had heard the kill channel open and had done the thing the hunt counted on. It had run. It had run because running felt like a chance, and the hunt had let it run because a chase made a better recording, and then it had died with its back turned, and its skin had gone onto the spine. 41 times, Eli Mara understood, looking at those 3 sad translated names, that the cruelest thing about the Karen hunt was not that it killed, it was that it had made fear itself into the weapon, taught 1,000 worlds that the right thing to do, when the hunter announced itself, was to turn and flee, and make the kill easy. Chief, she said, the ships on the spine, they all ran, didn't they? That's why they died. Every one of them, Frost said, and he did not soften it. That's the trap. Inside the trap, Mara. The hunt doesn't win because it's strong. It wins because it convinces the prey that running is the smart move. And running is exactly the move that kills you, every time. Because a fast ship built to chase will always catch a frightened ship built to mine ice or haul cargo. The 41 on that spine didn't die because they were weak. They died because they believed the story the hunt told them about themselves. He turned a dial. We're going to tell a different story, that's all. That's the whole of it. What she did not know yet, what almost no one outside the Border Watch knew, was the truth about the ship she was sitting in. The Callaway had not always been a rust bucket. 40 years ago, it had been built as exactly what it appeared to be. A standard patrol cruiser, slab-sided and blunt, with 2 good engines and ordinary guns. For its first 18 years it had served that way, honestly, dull and reliable, guarding one quiet border after another. And then, 2 decades ago, when its hull was already aging and its design already out of date, the Border Watch had done something to it that was not in any public record. They had taken it into a deep yard, and they had rebuilt it from the inside out, and they had left the outside exactly as ugly as it was. That was the whole idea. The watch had learned, over long and bloody years, what the Karen hunt did, and how it chose its prey. And it had decided to give the hunt exactly the prey it was looking for. It had taken an old cruiser that no hunter would ever fear, and it had filled it with teeth. The mismatched plating was not neglect. It was armor. Modern composite armor, broken into uneven panels and stained on purpose to read as patched scrap, and under each panel was a layer the hunt's sensors could not see through. The dead engine bell was not dead. It was a second drive, shut down and cold, held in reserve, ready to come alive the moment the ship needed to stop being slow. The thin, old, patchy shields were a projection laid over a shield grid 3 generations newer, dialed down to read weak. And the coil throwers, the simple short-range kinetic guns that border ships had carried for 50 years, those were real. They worked. They were exactly as unimpressive as they looked. They were there to be seen, to complete the picture of a harmless old ship, while the real weapons of the Callaway waited under the lying plating, folded flat against the hull, dark and silent and patient as the old man who would fire them. There were 26 of those folded lances in all, 13 to a side, and Gideon Frost knew each of them the way a man knows the rooms of a house he built himself. He had overseen their installation. That was the part of the record that did not exist anywhere, the reason the Border Watch had put him on this exact line and left him there. Frost had not simply been assigned to the Callaway. He had helped design what the Callaway became. 20 years ago he had been a younger man in a deep yard, watching the old cruiser come apart panel by panel and go back together with teeth. And he had argued, then, for the thing that everyone else thought was madness. He had argued that the disguise had to be total, not a warship pretending to be weak for a battle, a warship that lived as a weak ship, year after year, that limped and leaked and was laughed at, so that when the day finally came, the lie would be perfect, because it would not be a lie at all. The Callaway would be rust, would truly be a tired old border cruiser in every way that could be seen, in every record that could be read, right up until the half-second it chose to stop being one. It had cost him things. It had cost him a career that anyone could see, a reputation, the respect of people who looked at the old man on the rust bucket and saw a man the service had forgotten. He had let them think it. That, too, was part of the disguise, and Frost had worn it for 20 years without complaint, because he understood the math the way no one else did. A weapon everyone fears gets met with a fleet. A weapon no one believes in gets met with one proud pack that crossed 11 systems certain of an easy kill. The Callaway was a trap shaped like a victim. It had been a trap for 20 years, and for 11 of those years, the man whose job it was to spring it had been Gideon Frost. "You're wondering why me," Frost said. He had not looked up, but he had felt the young officer watching him again. Why an old man on a one-ship border, watch above a rock nobody's heard of? Why the watch would put a ship like this here and leave it? He turned a dial, read a number, turned it back. "It's because of this exact day, Mara. Somebody has to sit on the edge and wait. The hunt won't come to a strong place. So you build a strong place that looks weak, and you put it somewhere the edge feels thin, and you put a patient man inside it, and you wait. Most of them never get the visit. I've had 11 years of nothing. 11 years of dull rounds and broken coolant lines, and miners who think I'm too old for the job. He almost smiled again. And one of these came anyway. Right on schedule. Right where the map said the edge was thin. 11 years, Eli Mara said. You waited 11 years for one fight. I waited 11 years for the right fight, Frost said. There's a difference. I didn't want to fight with anybody. I wanted this. A pack with a long record and a high opinion of itself, that announces what it's going to do, that lets the prey see it coming. That's a pack that stopped checking its assumptions. That's a pack that's brought a ship along just to film how easy it is. He nodded at the witness, far at the back of the formation. And that, right there, is the most important ship in their whole fleet, and they don't even know it. They think it's there to record their victory. I'm going to let it record something else, and then I'm going to let it go home. Eli Mara looked at the witness, the small ship at the back that no one in the pack thought twice about, and she began, for the first time, to see the fight the way the old man saw it. Not as 6 ships against one. As a stage, with an audience that mattered more than any of the players. Everything the Callaway did in the next half hour would be a performance for one helpless camera, and the old man had been writing the script for 11 years. How can you be sure it runs? She asked. When it sees the others die, how do you know it won't just charge us out of rage, or call for more ships, or try something we haven't planned for? Because it's a witness, Frost said, as if that settled everything, and then, seeing it did not, he went on. It isn't built to fight. It barely has a gun on it. Its whole reason to exist is to survive and carry the recording home, and that order goes deeper in a Karen than rage does. A witness that dies with its recording is worthless to the hunt. A witness that lives and brings the truth home is the most valuable ship in the pack. They built that instinct into it over 1,000 years. When the others die, the witness will do the one thing it was made to do. It will run for home with the recording, because that is its purpose, and its purpose is the only thing that will be left. He nodded slowly. I'm not guessing, Mara. I'm using the one rule of theirs that never changes. That's the difference between a trap and a gamble. A trap uses the enemy's own habits against him. He can't stop being what he is. Eli Mara turned that over, and felt something cold and clear settle in her chest. Something that was not fear. You want a witness. I want their witness, Frost said. That's the whole game. You don't win a war against a thing like the Karen Hunt by killing 6 ships. They've got hundreds. You win it by changing the story they tell at the fire. Right now the story is, the hunt announces itself, and the prey runs and dies. Every time. Forever. I'm going to put a different story in their mouths, and I'm going to make sure there's someone alive to carry it home. The witness goes back. The witness always goes back. That's the one rule of theirs I'm counting on. He fell silent, and on the channel Vorn Hesktalu had grown bored of waiting, and was speaking again, this time directly to the Callaway, and his patience had thinned to something brittle. Old ship, the master said. You will not run, and you will not beg, and you have not even fired your foolish little guns. I had hoped for better. I had hoped for a chase worth recording, but I see now that you are only what you appear to be. Rust given a name. So I withdraw the gift of the chase. I will simply take you where you sit, and then I will take the ice world behind you, and your crew will be a footnote on a plate too small to read. Confirm the target. A new voice came onto the channel, and it was old. Even through the translator it carried age, a dry and unhurried quality, and Eli Mara understood without being told that this was the reader of the threshing crown, the one who watched the arrays the way she watched hers. The target is confirmed, Master, said. Human cruiser, designation Callaway. 40 years in service, 2 main drives, 1 non-functional, shields at 30% of a modern envelope, and degraded. Armament, kinetic coil throwers, range and yield consistent with a vessel of its generation. No active military signature beyond the expected. It is what the registry claims. A pause. I have read it 4 times, Master, on the long approach. 4 times it has read the same. An old ship, poorly kept, lightly armed. You see, Vorn Hesktalu said, and the satisfaction was back in his voice. Even who trusts nothing, trusts this. Prepare the trophy bracket. The forward one. The empty one. I want the rust mounted where the next prey can see it first. Aboard the Callaway, Gideon Frost listened to the old Karen reader confirm, 4 times over, every lie the Border Watch had spent 20 years building into the ship's skin. He listened to the master order the empty bracket prepared, and then he reached out and, very deliberately, turned the kill channel back up, all the way up, so that every word the Threshing Crown spoke from this moment forward would fill the bridge of the Callaway. "Why turn it up now?" Eli Mara asked. "Because I want to hear the exact second they understand," Frost said, "and because the witness is listening too. Whatever happens on this channel, it records. So from here on, every word that ship hears is a word I chose to let it hear." He cracked his knuckles, one old hand and then the other, an unhurried sound in the quiet bridge. "Bring the crew to readiness, but keep everything cold. Nothing wakes up, nothing folds out, nothing changes on their sensors. We are exactly as harmless as we were an hour ago, right up until we aren't." Around the small dim bridge, the crew of the Callaway moved into their places. There were only 6 of them, and they did not hurry, because they had drilled this for years and knew that hurrying was how mistakes happened. The reader at his arrays, the pilot at her cold controls, one hand resting near the switch that would wake the second engine, a weapons technician at the master board where the folded guns waited, dark, behind their false dead skin, the colony liaison, who had nothing to do now but watch the planet below, and the families that did not believe in the ship that was about to save them, and Gideon Frost in the gunnery chair, and Eli Mara beside him, watching the long blade close. 8,000 kilometers, 7,000. The Threshing Crown came on, slow and sure, the trophy spine bright with 41 stolen hulls, and 1 empty bracket polished and ready. Behind it, the quiet Talon and the second crown spread wide to flank a target that was not going to run. Below them, the Marrow Cutter and the Long Patience came up heavy and certain for the kill. And at the back, the witness watched and recorded, and prepared to carry home the easy death of the Rust given a name. "Master," Im said suddenly, and for the first time the old reader's dry voice had a thread in it that had not been there before. A small thread, a first thread. "Master, the old ship's heat signature has changed." "Changed how?" Vorn Hesktalu said. "It has dropped," Im said. "It was leaking heat from 100 failing seams. A moment ago it stopped, all of it, at once." There was a silence on the channel. In the gunnery chair of the Callaway, Gideon Frost laid his scarred hands on the master board, where the real weapons slept, and he did not smile, and he said, very quietly, to no one, and to everyone, "Now we begin." For 2 seconds after Im spoke, nothing happened, and those 2 seconds were the last quiet the Threshing Crown would ever know. Then the Callaway shed its disguise. It did not do it slowly. 20 years of patient pretending ended in less than a heartbeat, and to the readers aboard the Karen pack ship, it must have looked like the ship was tearing itself apart. The mismatched plating along the cruiser's flanks, the brown-stained patchwork that had read as scrap for 4 decades, split along seams no scan had been able to find. Whole panels rotated outward on hidden mounts, and where they had been, there was no rot and no failing seam. There were weapons. They folded out from under the lying skin all along the hull, dozens of them, rising and locking into firing position, with a smoothness that no neglected ship could have managed. These were not coil throwers. The coil throwers were still there, the real ones, the harmless ones, and they sat unused and forgotten, because the things coming up out of the Callaway's flanks were focused energy lances, of a kind the Karen Hunt had only ever met on the heaviest human warships, and never, in 41 chases, on a border patrol cruiser, above an ice world, at the thin edge of space. At the stern, the dead engine bell came alive. The cold metal that had read as a corpse for the entire approach flooded with light, and the Callaway's second drive lit hard and clean and modern, and the weak, uneven blue of the single working engine was suddenly joined by its twin, and the old slab-sided cruiser stopped being slow. It surged forward, and the surge was not the labored crawl of a 40-year-old ship. It was the sharp, deliberate acceleration of something that had been holding still on purpose for a very long time. And the shields. The thin, old, degraded envelope that Im had read 4 separate times and trusted, dropped away, and under it a shield grid, 3 generations newer, came up to full, layered and deep and bright, an envelope that no lance on the Threshing Crown's manifest could punch through in a single shot. All of it happened in less than a second, and aboard the Callaway, it happened in silence. Because the crew did not need to speak. They had drilled this exact moment for years, the waking of the ship, until it had become a thing their hands did without thought. The pilot's hand had been resting near the second drive switch for 3 hours. Now it closed, and the cold engine lived. The weapons technician released the plate locks in a single practice sequence, and 26 lances rose as one. The engineer brought the true shield grid up under the falling projection, so smoothly that there was never an instant when the ship was unprotected. Eli Mara, at her station, watched her own board change in front of her, watched the lie she had been staring at for hours peel away to show the truth underneath, and she realized that the most frightening thing about the Callaway was not its weapons. It was the discipline. It was 6 people turning a ship from a corpse into a killer without a wasted motion or a raised voice, because they had decided, long ago, exactly who they were going to be when the moment came. On the kill channel, which Gideon Frost had turned all the way up, the Karen Hunt began to react, and the first sound was "im." "Master," the old reader said, and the dry calm was gone from him entirely now. "Master, the readings, the ship, all of it was false. The heat, the shields, the armament, it was all projection and disguise. It is not what the registry. It was never what the registry. Master, the old ship is a warship. It is a fully armed modern warship, and it has been one the whole time." "That is not possible," Vorn Hesktalu said. "You read it 4 times. "I read what it showed me 4 times, Im said. "Master, it wanted to be read. It wanted us to come." In the gunnery chair of the Callaway, Gideon Frost listened to that last sentence, the old reader saying out loud the exact truth of the last 20 years, and he allowed himself nothing. No smile, no word. He had work to do, and the work had waited 11 years, and he was not going to rush it now. "Mara," he said, "targets in order. Read them to me the way I taught you." Eli Mara's hands were steady now. The terror was gone, burned off in the white shock of the last few seconds, and what was left was the training, and the training had a list. "Flankers first," she said. "The quiet Talon and the second crown. They're the fast ones. They'll try to get behind us and turn us back toward the killers. We take their speed away before they can use it." "Good," Frost said. "The quiet Talon, she's nearest. She's already moving to flank." He laid his hand on the master board, and the folded lances of the Callaway swung as one toward the lean, fast ship that had spread wide to cut off a retreat that was never coming. "Their whole plan needs us to run, so the first thing we kill is the thing that turns runners around. Fire." The Callaway fired. The lances along its starboard flank lit all at once, and the dark between the 2 ships filled with a lattice of focused energy, and the quiet Talon, which had been built to chase and flank and herd, which had never in its career been the one that was caught, took the full weight of a human cruiser's true broadside across 2,000 kilometers. Its shields, dialed for a chase and not for a stand, flared and held for less than a second, and then failed, and the lances walked across its lean hull from bow to stern, and the fast ship that had turned so many fleeing prey back toward the killers came apart in the dark, its drives blowing out in a long, silent flower of light, its hull breaking into 3 tumbling pieces that drifted away from the formation and went cold. 41 chases, 41 trophies taken, and in 11 months aboard the Callaway, in the first 8 seconds of the only real fight she would ever see, Eli Mara watched the Karen Hunt lose its first ship. "First trophy," Frost said quietly. It was the only thing he said. He had been waiting 11 years to take it, and he took it, and he named it once. And then he moved on, because 1 ship out of 6 was not a victory. It was an opening. Down on Meridian 9, in the dark control room of the deepest dome, Petra Vance saw the quiet Talon break apart on her display, and did not understand at first what she was looking at. She had been braced for the Callaway to die. She had a speech half ready for the colony, words about courage and sacrifice, and the old ship that had bought them a little time. Then one of the 6 hunters came apart in a flower of silent light, and it was not the Callaway, and the colony administrator put one hand flat against the cold console and made herself watch, because she had been told for 9 years that the rust bucket was not what it looked like, and she had never believed it, and the thing she had never believed had just happened in front of her eyes. She did not put it on the colony speakers. She did not know yet what she was watching, only that the old man in orbit had drawn first blood, and that the voice on the kill channel had stopped promising and started shouting. She kept the domes quiet, and she kept her people indoors. And she watched, the way the Callaway watched, the way the whole thin edge of human space had always watched, and waited for one ship to finally turn and bite. Aboard the cruiser, the small crew did not cheer. That surprised Eli Mara almost as much as the kill itself. She had imagined, in the academy, that a first victory in a real fight would feel like something, would pull a shout out of people. But the bridge of the Callaway stayed quiet and clean and busy. The pilot called a course correction. The reader called a power reading off the dead flanker's wreckage. The weapons technician reported the starboard lances cycled and ready. They had drilled this for years, and the drill held, and there was no room in the drill for celebrating one ship when 5 remained. The old man had built that quiet into them on purpose. Eli Mara understood, the same way he had built everything else. On the kill channel, the silence of the threshing crown broke into noise. Eli Mara heard the pack second, Resh Kal Vo, snarling orders, ordering the second crown to break off its flank and come about, ordering the marrow cutter and the long patience to close and bring their heavy lances to bear, ordering shields to full across the pack. She heard Vorn Hesk Talu, and the master's voice had changed. The smooth patience was gone. What was left was the voice of a hunter who had just watched, for the first time in his long career, the prey kill one of his own. It does not matter, Vorn Hesk Talu said, and he was saying it to his own bridge, the way he had said other things to his own bridge, but louder now, faster. One ship against the pack. It is one ship. It is still one ship. Bring the killers in. Bring the marrow cutter. It cannot fire on all of us at once. It is still only one ship. He's right about one thing, Frost said, almost to himself. We are only one ship. So we don't let them all bring their guns to bear at once. Pilot, we don't sit here and trade. Take us into them. Right down the middle of the pack, between the killers, where the flankers can't get a clean angle, and the heavies are afraid to shoot for fear of hitting each other. Keep us moving. A moving ship in the middle of their own formation is the one place all 6 of them can't gang up on us. The Callaway, no longer slow, no longer pretending, drove straight into the Karen pack. It was a thing no prey had ever done to the hunt, and the hunt had no answer ready for it. Their formation had been built to surround a fleeing target, to herd it and corner it and kill it from the outside. They had never drilled for the prey coming inward, into the heart of them, putting itself in the one position where their overwhelming numbers got in their own way. The second crown, coming about to flank, found the Callaway already past where it expected the human ship to be, and had to hold its fire for fear of raking the marrow cutter beyond. The long patience, swinging its heavy lances around, found the human cruiser tucked too close to the threshing crown to fire on, without risking the flagship. They're confused, Eli Mara said. She watched the Karen ships jockey and check and hold fire, watched the long-practiced machine of the pack grind against itself. Chief, they don't know where to point. They never had to know, Frost said. 41 times the prey ran outward, and they killed it from the outside. Nobody ever came in. There's nothing in their training for in. Mara, the marrow cutter, she's swinging wide to get clear of the flagship and bring her heavies on us. She's giving us her flank to do it. Don't let her finish the turn. Locked, Eli Mara said, and she meant it, her hands moving on the targeting board the way they had moved 1,000 times in drills that had felt, until 11 minutes ago, like make-believe. The Callaway fired again, the port lances this time, and caught the marrow cutter in the middle of its turn, broadside on, with its heavy lances still swinging, and its shields canted the wrong way for a hit from this angle. The killer ship, built thick and slow for the actual murder once the prey was cornered, had never expected to be the one exposed, and its armor, heavy as it was not built to take a focused human broadside across its open flank. The lances bit deep. Something inside the marrow cutter let go, and the heavy ship shuddered and slewed off its turn and began to drift, drives flickering, weapons going dark, not destroyed yet but mortally hurt, falling out of the fight that it had crossed 11 systems to win easily. The marrow cutter, drifting and wounded, made one last attempt to matter. As it slewed off its broken turn, it brought a single working lance battery to bear and fired on the Callaway at close range, a desperate stab from a dying ship. The shot landed. The cruiser's shields dipped 4 points and recovered, and the Callaway did not so much as alter course, and the Marrowcutter's last gun fell silent, as the power feeding it failed somewhere deep in the broken hull. It was the kind of blow that would have crippled any of the 41 ships on the spine. Against the thing the Hunt had mistaken for rust, it was nothing at all, a stone thrown at a wall, and the wall did not notice. "That's 2 out of the fight," Frost said. "1 dead, 1 dying. Pilot, hold us close. Mara, watch the flagship. Vorn Hesk-Talu hasn't fired yet." He was right. In all of it, in the death of the Quiet Talon and the wounding of the Marrowcutter, the Threshing Crown itself had not fired a single shot. The Master's ship sat in the middle of its scattering pack, the largest and most beautiful of them all, its trophy spine bright with 41 stolen hulls and 1 empty bracket, and it had not fired, because Vorn Hesk-Talu was, for the first time in his career, watching a fight he did not understand and trying to find in it the moment he had been promised. On the channel, Im spoke again, and the old reader's voice had gone past fear into something flatter and more terrible, the calm of a man reading out a verdict. "Master," Im said, "the Quiet Talon is destroyed. The Marrowcutter is disabled and venting. The human ship is inside our formation, where our weapons cannot converge. It has fired twice and taken 2 ships. It has not been touched." A pause. "Master, I must tell you what I am reading, and you will not want to hear it. This was not a chase that went wrong. This was a trap, and we walked into it exactly as it was built for us to do. 11 systems and 3 hours of warning, all of it. We did not find this ship. This ship was left here for us to find." "Be silent," Vorn Hesk-Talu said. "I have been a reader of this pack for 200 years, Im said. "I have read 41 kills. I will not be silent for the 42nd, when the prey is us." Aboard the Callaway, Gideon Frost heard the old Karen reader say it, and for just a moment, one moment, in the middle of the only fight he had waited his whole career to have, he felt something that was almost respect. The reader had seen it. Too late. Far too late. But he had seen it whole, the way Frost had seen it whole, 11 years ago, sitting in this same chair, above this same ice, imagining this exact day. "That one's smart," Frost said, almost to himself. The reader. 200 years reading kills, and he's the only one on that ship who's looking at the truth, instead of looking for the moment he was promised. Listen to him, Mara, not because it helps us. We're past needing his help. Listen because that's the voice that goes home on the recording. When the Hunt plays this back at the fire, that's the voice they'll trust, because that's the voice that doubted nothing for 200 years, and is doubting everything now. He's writing our story for us, in his own words, and he doesn't even know it. The old man's scarred hands rested easy on the masterboard. Best kind of witness there is. The one who used to be on their side. Eli Mara listened, and she heard the old Karen reader keep speaking into the master's silence, naming the dead, naming the trap, naming the 11 years. And she understood that the most dangerous weapon the Callaway carried had never folded out of the hull at all. It was the truth, and the old man was making the enemy say it out loud, on a channel he knew was being recorded, to be carried home and believed. "Mara," Frost said, "mark the time again." "Mark, Chief. We're 9 minutes in from the first shot." 9 minutes, Frost said. He looked at the display, at the dead flanker and the dying killer, and the scattering, confused, frightened pack that had crossed 11 systems certain of an easy story, and at the long, beautiful flagship in the middle of it that had not yet understood that the story was already lost. 9 minutes, 2 of theirs gone. We've got plenty of time. Pilot, bring us around. The second crown is trying to run for the flank again. Let's go take the second trophy, before the master finds his nerve. The Callaway came about inside the heart of the pack, 2 engines bright, weapons folded out and live. A 40-year-old border cruiser that had finally, after 20 years of lying, told the truth about itself, and the truth was the worst thing the Karen Hunt had ever seen. The second crown nearly made it to open space. It was the faster of the 2 flankers, and with the Quiet Talon dead, it had no partner to coordinate with, so it did the thing the Karen Hunt had never once had to do in 41 chases. It tried to break away from the prey. It lit its drives hard, and ran outward from the tangle of the formation, angling for the dark beyond the killing ground, where its speed could keep it clear of the human cruiser's lances long enough to think. "They're running," Eli Mara said, and there was wonder in it. "Chief, the flanker is running from us." "Of course it is," Frost said. "That's the part of the story they never put on the plates. The hunt runs too, when the math turns. Pilot, don't chase it straight. Cut the angle. It's running for open space, so we don't get behind it. We get ahead of where it's going to be." He laid his hand on the master board. "Mara, this is the lesson. They built their whole reputation on the prey running. Now watch what a running ship looks like from the gun side." The Callaway did not chase, it cut. The pilot threw the cruiser across the inside of the second crown's curve, 2 engines burning, and the human ship arrived at the place the Karen flanker was heading for, before the flanker did. And when the second crown ran into the trap of that geometry, fast and frightened and committed to its escape line, the Callaway was waiting broadside on with its starboard lances live. The flanker's shields, thrown to maximum aft to protect its drives in the run, were thin across the bow it now presented. The lances struck it head-on. The second crown's run ended where it began, in light and silence, the lean, fast hull breaking apart along its length, drives flaring once and going dark, the wreckage tumbling away on the same escape line it had been so desperate to reach. "3," Frost said. "2 flankers dead. Mara, time." Before she could answer, the pack second made his move. Resh Calvo, who had wanted to skip the speeches and get to the killing, who had called the Callaway dead already, did the one thing left to a hunter whose certainty had been taken away from him. He stopped giving careful orders. From the bridge of the Threshing Crown he took direct control of the flagship's forward batteries, and he tried to do by sheer will what the whole pack had failed to do by tactics. He drove the master's beautiful ship straight at the Callaway, lances blazing, trying to close the distance and pin the human cruiser against its own dive, trying to make the fight a brawl instead of a hunt. It was brave. It was the bravest thing any Karen did that day, and it failed, because brave was not the thing the fight needed, and Resh Calvo did not understand that yet. "He's charging us," Eli Mara said. "The flagship. The pack second's taken the guns and he's coming straight in." "Then he's giving us his bow," Frost said, unhurried. Same mistake the second crown made, just slower and angrier. "Pilot, slide us off his line. Don't trade bows with a ship that size. We don't need to. Let him come past and show us his flank, and when he does, we don't kill him. Not yet. We make him miss. I want the pack second to feel what it is to throw everything at us and watch it do nothing." He turned a dial a precise amount. Light cover fire. Enough to fold his shields. Not enough to finish him. Make the witness watch the Threshing Crown charge a rust bucket and bounce off. The pilot slid the Callaway off the charge with a single clean roll, and Resh Calvo's furious rush carried the great flagship past the human ship and out into empty space, its lances raking the dark where the Callaway had been a half-second before, and finding nothing. The Callaway's answering fire walked across the Threshing Crown's forward shields and dropped them, just dropped them, did no real harm, and let the master's ship blunder past, shaken and shieldless and humiliated, having spent its bravest moment on a target that simply was not there anymore. On the channel, Eli Mara heard Resh Calvo make a sound she would remember for the rest of her life, a low, broken sound that the translator did not even try to render into words. It was the sound of the second strongest will in the Karen hunt, breaking against the one thing it could not push through, which was an enemy that did not need to win the brawl because it had already won the fight. 14 minutes from the first shot, she said, when she could. "Good pace," he said. "We're not rushing, that's important. Pilot, come about. The long patience hasn't run, and it hasn't fired clean yet. It's the last of the killers still in the fight. Let's go end it, before the master decides to be brave." On the kill channel, the Karen hunt was no longer a pack. It had become a collection of frightened voices talking over one another, and Gideon Frost, who had turned the channel all the way up so the witness would hear everything, listened to it the way he had listened to everything that day, gathering small facts, missing nothing. He heard Resh Calvo, the pack second, ordering the Long Patience to fall back and form on the flagship. He heard the Long Patience answer that it could not get a firing solution without risking the Threshing Crown, that every time it brought its heavy lances around the human ship was already somewhere else, already too close to the master's hull to shoot at. He heard the panic underneath the discipline, the thing that no one in the hunt had ever heard before, which was the sound of a Karen ship realizing it could not bring its overwhelming firepower to bear, because the prey had put itself in the one place the firepower was useless. And he heard Vorn Hesk Talu order, in a voice gone tight and high, that the trophy bracket be cleared away. "Master?" Resh Kalavo said. "The forward bracket," Vorn Hesk Talu said. "The one I had prepared. Take it down. Take it down before, take it down." It was the first time the master had said anything that admitted the truth. The empty bracket, polished and bolted, and made ready in advance for the rust given a name, was no longer a sign of certain victory. It had become a thing he could not bear to look at, and he wanted it gone from his own hull before the fight ended, because he had begun, somewhere in the last few minutes, to understand what would be mounted on it if anyone lived to mount anything at all. "He's taking down the bracket," Eli Mara said. She had heard it too. "Chief, he had it ready for us, and now he's taking it down." "Leave it up," Frost said quietly, and for a moment, she thought he was talking to her, until she understood he was talking to the threshing crown, 1,200 kilometers away and shrinking. "Leave it up, Talu. You cleared a space on your wall before you saw the prey run. The least you can do now is leave it empty where everyone can see it." The long patience tried to make it stand. It was the heaviest ship left in the pack, slow and thick-armored, built for the close, brutal work of finishing a cornered target, and it had spent the whole fight unable to land a clean blow because the Callaway would not stay still, and would not stay clear of the flagship. Now, with the flankers dead and the marrow cutter drifting and venting, the long patience did the only thing left to it. It stopped trying to maneuver and simply turned its full broadside on the human cruiser and fired everything it had, all its heavy lances at once, a wall of focused energy thrown across 900 kilometers at the ship that had killed 3 of its packmates. It was the first real blow the Karen hunt landed all day, and it was not enough. For half a second before it struck, Eli Mara saw the whole wall of fire coming on her board, a solid front of focused energy 900 kilometers wide, and every instinct she had told her it would be the end of the ship. She had read the long patience's numbers. She knew what a Karen Heavy could throw. 41 ships had died to less than this. She gripped the edge of her station, and she did not run her hand toward any control, because the old man had not told her to, and she had learned, in the last 20 minutes, to trust that more than her own fear. The Callaway's shields, the deep layered modern grid that had hidden for 20 years under a projection of weakness, took the full weight of the long patience's broadside, and they flared, and they held. Across the bridge, the lights dimmed, and a console somewhere shorted out, and Eli Mara felt the whole 40-year-old hull ring like a struck bell, and when it was over, the shields read 60%, and falling slowly, and the Callaway was still there, still moving, still pointed at the killer that had just thrown its whole strength against the human ship, and failed to break it. "That's all they had," Frost said. He had not flinched. "A Heavy's full broadside, and it cost us 40 points of shield. They don't have another one of those in the whole pack. Mara, the long patience just spent everything to find out it isn't enough. Lock her." "Locked, Chief." "Both flanks," Frost said. "She's slow, and she's committed, and she's not going anywhere. End it." The Callaway turned its full broadside on the long patience, the way the long patience had turned its broadside on the Callaway. And the difference between the two ships was the difference between 20 years of clever patient design and 41 easy kills against fleeing prey. The human lances struck the heavy ship across its whole length, and its thick armor, built to soak the weak return fire of cornered cutters and colony tenders, was never built for this. The long patience came apart amidships, the two halves of it drifting away from one another, drives dark, lances cold, the last of the hunt's killers gone. "4, Frost said. "Mara, time." 20 minutes from the first shot, she said. Her voice caught a little, not from fear now, but from something closer to awe. "Chief, 4 of their 6. The marrow cutter's still drifting, but it's done, it's venting, and it's not under power. That's 5 out of the fight. There's just the flagship," Frost said. "And the witness." He looked at the display, at the long, beautiful blade of the threshing crown, sitting almost alone now, in the wreckage of its own pack, and at the small recording ship, hanging far at the back, untouched, watching, doing the one thing it had crossed 11 systems to do, which was to record the kill. It had recorded a different kill than the one it came for. Let's not forget the bracket. Pilot, take us in toward the flagship. Slow. Let them see us coming the way they wanted us to see them coming. The Callaway turned toward the Threshing Crown, and on the kill channel, Vorn Hesktalu had stopped giving orders, and the silence where the master's voice had been was the loudest thing in the fight. It was Im who spoke into it. 21 minutes, master, the old reader said, and his dry voice had found its calm again, the terrible flat calm of a man reading out the last lines of a long account. 21 minutes since the old ship told us the truth about itself. The Quiet Talon, destroyed. The Second Crown, destroyed. The Marrow Cutter, disabled and lost. The Long Patience, destroyed. 4 of our hulls gone, 1 drifting dead, in 21 minutes, to a single cruiser that has lost 40% of its shields and nothing else. This is the 42nd chase, master. We are the prey. We have been the prey since before we arrived. There is still the Threshing Crown, Vorn Hesktalu said, and his voice was a ruin of the smooth thing it had been 4 hours ago. There is still my ship, my spine, 41 hulls. It cannot kill the Threshing Crown. It is one cruiser. It is Rust. It is Rust given a name. It was never Rust, master, Im said. We named it Rust because it let us. That was the trap. The whole of it. They knew we would not come for a strong ship, so they made a strong ship and dressed it as a weak one, and they put it on the edge where we hunt, and they waited. They have been waiting 11 years, master. The human at its guns has been waiting 11 years for a pack proud enough to make this exact mistake. And we are that pack. We crossed 11 systems to be that pack. We announced ourselves for 3 hours so that everyone would be watching when we did it. Aboard the Callaway, Gideon Frost listened to the old reader lay it all out, every piece of it true, and he turned to the young officer beside him. You hear that, Mara? He said quietly. That's the most important thing that's happened in this whole fight, not the 4 ships. That. He nodded at the channel, at the old Quran reader's voice. He understands now. He understands it completely, and the witness is recording every word of it. When that little ship goes home, it isn't going to carry a recording of a fight. It's going to carry a recording of the hunt's own reader, explaining, in his own voice, exactly how the hunt was beaten. That's worth more than the 4 hulls. That's worth more than all 6. He laid his hand back on the masterboard, and the trophy spine of the Threshing Crown filled the display. 41 stolen hulls, and 1 empty bracket the master had not managed to take down in time. Now, Frost said, let's finish it before the clock hits 26. Pilot, take us in. Mara, target the spine first. The spine, Chief? The spine, Frost said. 41 ships they killed, and bolted to their own back to brag about it. Let's give those ships back to the dark before we give the master the same.
Cut the trophy spine to pieces. Let the witness record that too.
The Callaway came in on the Threshing Crown, the way the Threshing Crown had come in on the Callaway, slow and certain, and in no hurry at all, and it took the trophy spine apart 1 section at a time. Eli Mara fired the shots herself, under the old man's hand, and she found that she did not feel cruel doing it, only clear. The lances walked down the length of the great dorsal ridge, and the stolen hulls came off it in pieces. 41 plates, 41 names burned into them in angular Karan script, 41 chases that had ended with a fleeing ship and a bolted trophy and a story told at the fire. One by one, the human lances cut the bolts, and the plates spun away into the dark, the dead names tumbling free of the thing that had collected them, going cold and quiet at last, given back to the long dark they had been dragged out of. The Threshing Crown tried to fire back the whole time. Vorn Hesktalu had found his nerve again at the very end, the desperate nerve of a hunter with nothing left to lose, and the flagship's lances reached for the Callaway across the closing distance. But the master's ship was built like all the hunt's ships were built, to chase and to flank and to kill prey that ran outward, and the human cruiser was tucked in close and never still, and the Threshing Crown's beautiful weapons could not find the angle they needed, the same as none of them had all day. A few shots landed. The Callaway's shields took them and dropped to 40%, and then to 35% and held, and the cruiser kept cutting, methodical, unhurried, until the last of the 41 trophies had spun away into the black, and the spine of the Threshing Crown was nothing but bare scored metal, and one empty bracket the master had never managed to take down. "That's the spine, Chief," Eli Mara said. "It's clean. They're all gone." "All but one," Frost said. "The empty one. Leave it. I want it on the recording exactly the way he made it. He cleared a space for us before he ever saw us fight. Let him keep the empty space." He looked at the time on her board without asking. "How long?" 24 minutes from the first shot." "Then we don't drag it out," Frost said. 2 minutes is plenty. Pilot, give me a clean line on the flagship's drive section. Mara, both flanks, full. When I say, we put the threshing crown into the dark with the ships it stole, not the bridge, the drives. I want the master alive long enough to understand it's over, and I want the witness to see the master's own ship die exactly the way 41 others did. He paused, and his weathered face was very still. On my mark. On the kill channel, in the last seconds, Vorn Hesktalu spoke one final time, and the smooth, patient master, who had promised the Rust a glorious death 4 hours ago, was gone entirely. What was left was small and stripped bare. Before the master spoke his last, he tried, in the final minute, every door that was left to him, and found them all closed. He ordered the threshing crown to flee, and the reader answered, flatly, that the drives could not outrun a ship that had cut the angle on the second crown, that running would only present the stern the human ship was already aiming for. He ordered a signal sent for other packs, and answered that the nearest Karen pack was 9 systems away, and would arrive to find only wreckage. He ordered the Marrow Cutter, the dying ship, to ram the human cruiser, and the Marrow Cutter did not answer at all, because there was no longer anyone alive aboard it able to. Every order the master gave came back empty, the way the bracket on his spine had stayed empty, and at the end of the minute, Vorn Hesktalu had nothing left to command but the question that had been growing in him since the quiet Talon died. "Why?" the master said. "Why did you not simply run? We would have given you the chase. We would have made you honored. You chose this. You chose to be a trap. What kind of prey chooses to be a trap?" Gideon Frost reached out, and for the first time in the whole fight, spoke into the channel himself, so that the master and the reader, and the witness, and everyone the witness would ever play this recording for, would hear a human voice answer. "We're not prey," Frost said. "We were never prey. We just let you believe it, because that's the only way you'd come close enough." He let that sit for a second. "You spent 4 hours teaching 9,000 people on that ice how they were going to die. You told them their guardian was Rust. You cleared a space on your wall before you'd seen us move. That's not strength, Talu. That's a habit. 41 ships taught you that announcing yourself was safe, that the prey always runs, that the chase is a gift. It made you certain, and certain made you slow, and slow is how you died." He paused, and his voice did not rise. It never rose. "You crossed 11 systems to take a story home. You're going to get one. It just isn't the one you came for. Mark." The Callaway fired. Both flanks at once, full, into the drive section of the threshing crown, and the master's beautiful ship, the long dark blade that had killed 41 others and bolted their skins to its back, came apart at the stern in a long silent unfolding of light. The drives blew out, the flagship broke. The command tower with its scored and empty spine tumbled away from the rest of the hull, drives dead, lances cold, the threshing crown joining the dark exactly as it had sent 41 ships into the dark before it, and the empty bracket stayed empty, spinning slowly away into the black, having never held the trophy the master had been so certain of that he polished its place in advance. Then it was quiet. The last voice on the kill channel was the old reader, who had read 41 kills and trusted nothing in 200 years, until the one time it mattered, spoke once more, before the recording would carry him home, and he did not speak to his dead master, and he did not speak to the human ship. He spoke, it seemed, to whoever would one day play the recording back, to the cubs at the fire, to the packs 9 systems away, to the long future of the Karen hunt. "Let it be recorded," said, in his dry and unhurried voice, "that the pack of the threshing crown crossed 11 systems to the ice world, the humans call Meridian 9. Let it be recorded that we announced ourselves for 3 hours, as is our way, and gave the prey the gift of the chase, as is our way, and mounted the bracket in advance, as is our way. Let it be recorded that the prey did not run, Let it be recorded that the prey was never prey, that it had waited 11 years for us, that it wore weakness the way we wear strength, as a thing made on purpose. 6 hulls, 26 minutes. Let it be recorded, and let it be taught, so that no pack ever again mistakes the quiet old ship at the edge of human space for rust. A silence. Let it be recorded that I read it 4 times, and 4 times it lied to me, and the lie was the truest thing I ever read. Then the kill channel went dark, and there was nothing on it at all. 26 minutes, Eli Mara said softly, looking at her board. From the first shot to the last, 26 minutes. She looked at the display, at the spreading field of cooling wreckage where 6 proud Karen hulls had been, 5 of them dead now, and the 6th, the Marrow Cutter, still drifting and venting and powerless. And 1 ship more, far at the back, untouched, watching. Chief, the witness. It hasn't moved. It hasn't fired. It's just recording. I know, Frost said. That's its whole job. He looked at the small ship for a long moment. The crew of the Callaway looked at it too, and Eli Mara understood that this was the decision the whole fight had been built around, that everything else had been certain, and this was the only real choice the old man had to make. The witness was helpless. It would be the easiest kill of the day. 6 trophies instead of 5. The full pack. Nothing left to carry any story home at all. We could take it, Eli Mara said. She did not say it because she wanted to. She said it because she needed to hear him answer. We could take the whole pack. No one would ever know what happened out here. That's exactly why we let it go, Frost said. Think it through, Mara. What happens if we kill the witness? He answered it himself, the way he answered most things, when he was ready. Then a pack of the Karen hunt crosses 11 systems to an ice world, and is never heard from again. That's all. A mystery. The hunt sends another pack to find out, and another, and they keep coming, because a mystery is just an empty space, and they'll fill it with whatever flatters them. They'll tell themselves the first pack got unlucky, hit a mine, lost its way. They'll never learn the lesson, because we didn't let anyone live to teach it. He turned in the gunnery chair and looked at the young officer, and the thing in his weathered face was the thing that had been there at the very beginning, when the kill channel was still promising the rust a glorious death. Recognition. A man at the end of a thing he had understood from the start. You don't win a war against something like the hunt by killing its ships, Frost said. They've got hundreds of ships. You win it by winning the story they tell about you afterward. Right now, today, in that little ship back there, we are writing the next 1,000 years of what the Karen hunt believes about humans. We get to choose what it says. And I'm not going to choose mystery. I'm going to choose terror. He nodded at the witness. That ship goes home. It carries the recording. It carries Im's own voice, explaining how the hunt walked into a trap that was 11 years in the waiting. It carries 6 ships gone in 26 minutes to 1 rusted cruiser that was never rust. And it carries this. He gestured at the empty bracket, still spinning slowly away into the dark on the broken tower of the threshing crown. The space the master cleared for us. Empty. Forever. Eli Mara looked at the helpless ship at the back of the wreckage field, and she understood, all at once and completely, the thing the old man had been trying to teach her since the 4th hour of the kill channel. You made us into the thing they fear, she said. On purpose. The whole ship. The whole 11 years. You didn't just want to win. You wanted them to carry it home and tell it at their fires. That's the war, Frost said. The rest is just the fight. The fight we won 20 years ago, in a yard, when somebody decided to dress a killer up as a victim and leave it on the edge. Today we just collected. He looked at the channel, still open, still carrying every sound on the Callaway's bridge to the recorder at the back of the dark. Let the witness go. Don't chase it. Don't fire on it. Open a clear lane and let it run for home. It came to record an easy death. Let it record the truth instead, and let it carry the truth to every fire the hunt has ever lit. Eli Mara looked at the old man for a long moment, and she asked the question she had been carrying since the 4th hour of the kill channel, the real one, the one underneath all the others. Doesn't it bother you? 11 years of waiting. 11 years of letting them think you were too old, too slow, that the ship was junk. You could have told someone. You could have let one person know what you really were. That would have been the same as running, Frost said. Think about it, Mara. The whole strength of this ship is that nobody believes in it. The second one person off this crew tells one story in one bar about the rust bucket with teeth. The disguise is gone, and the next pack comes ready, and we lose the only weapon that matters. The disguise isn't the plating. The disguise is the 11 years. It's the dull rounds and the broken coolant and the miners who think I'm too old. All of that is the trap, just as much as the lances are. You don't get to be the thing they don't expect, unless you're willing to be underestimated for a very long time. By everyone, including the people you're protecting. He almost smiled. Especially them. They have to believe it most of all, or the hunt won't. She thought about the 9,000 people on the ice below, who had heard a hunter promise them death, and had not believed the old ship would save them, and who would never quite know the truth of what had happened above their sky. They'll never thank you. They won't even know what you did. That's the job, Frost said simply. The watch isn't about being thanked. It's about being there. Now open the lane and let the witness run. The witness ran. It turned and lit its drives and fled for the jump line, and the Callaway let it go, opened a clear lane, and held its fire, and watched the small ship carry its terrible cargo of truth out toward the dark and the long way home. No one aboard the human cruiser said anything as it went. They watched it dwindle and vanish, and they knew, all of them, that it was the most important shot they had not fired all day. Then there was nothing left out by the jump line but cooling metal and dark. Gideon Frost let out a long breath, the breath of a man setting down something he had carried for 11 years, and he gave the orders that ended the day. He told the pilot to bring the Callaway about, back toward the ice world it guarded. He told the weapons technician to fold the lances away, all of them, back under the lying plating, back into the dark where they had slept for 20 years. He told the engineer to shut the second drive down and let it go cold again, and to dial the shields back to their thin, old, patchy projection, and to let the false heat begin to leak from 100 false seams. He told the ship, in effect, to put its disguise back on, to become rust again, to go back to being the tired old cruiser that 9,000 miners had never believed in. Down in the deepest dome, Petra Vance watched the last of it happen and let out a breath she felt she had been holding for 4 hours. She did not put it on the speakers, not the truth of it, because she had been told for 9 years that she must not, and because she understood now, watching the old ship turn its lights down and its disguise back on, exactly why. She told the colony, in a steady voice, that the danger had passed, that the Callaway had driven the raiders off, that everyone could come out and go back to their lives. It was true, in its way, and it was also a small, kind lie, the kind the old man in orbit had taught her to tell, without ever speaking a word to her. She thought she might never sleep easily again above this frozen rock, without first finding the dull, patched shape of the cruiser on her display, and being glad it was there. She did not believe in the Callaway anymore. She knew it now, which was a different and lonelier thing. The Callaway came about, ugly and slow and rusted, 2 engines cold again, and one of them feigning death, weapons folded back to sleep, and it climbed back up to its lonely station above Meridian 9, looking exactly like a tired old ship that had somehow survived a thing it had no business surviving. Below, in the dark domes on the ice, 9,000 people who had not believed in the old ship watched the field of wreckage go cold on their displays, and did not understand what they had seen, and would tell the story, in the years to come, in a dozen wrong and wondering ways, none of them quite the truth, because the truth was not theirs to know. The truth was out by the jump line, riding home in a small fleeing ship, to be told and retold for a very long time. Eli Mara stood at her station and watched the old man settle back into the gunnery chair, folding his scarred hands the way he had folded them in the first hour, and she understood that for him, nothing had changed, that tomorrow he would go back to dull rounds and broken coolant lines and the long, patient watch, that he would wait again, for years if he had to, for the next pack proud enough to come. "How long will it last?" she asked him. "What the witness carries home. How long before they forget and come again?" Frost considered it, the way he considered everything, taking his time. "A long while," he said. "The hunt teaches its young at the fire. They learn the old chases the way children learn old songs. After today, there's a new song. 6 hulls and a master's empty bracket, and a ship that was never rust, lost in 26 minutes on the edge of human space. They'll tell that one to their cubs to keep them home." He looked out at the dark, at the cold wreckage, and the colony turning slowly below. 1,000 years, maybe. Maybe more. That's how you fight a thing like the Hunt. Not with the guns, with the story. You make yourself, on purpose, over 20 patient years, into the thing they tell each other to be afraid of. He fell quiet, and the bridge of the Callaway was quiet around him. 6 tired people, and one old ship, resuming a lonely watch above a frozen world that would never quite know what it owed them. The Karen Hunt had come to make the humans run. That was the whole of what they understood, in their long, proud record of 41 fleeing ships. And it was the one thing they had never thought to question. They came to make the humans run, the way all their prey ran, the way the story always went. The humans had simply decided, long ago, never to be the ones who run.